Hey everybody, welcome back to Havoc Maker Studio. My name is John. Today we are going to cover City of Mist, a tabletop RPG from the Sons of Oak that came out around 2019, 2020-ish. It was originally Kickstarter around 2018, distributed through Modifius and now through Drive-Thru RPG. Now before we get into it, if you could do me a big favor, jump on down below. Actually, just look below. Hit that subscribe button. It helps highlight the channel, helps get you notified of all these upcoming game reviews, paint tutorials, paint and chat, and live shows that we're going to be doing in the very near future. So without further ado, let's get into this. What is City of Mist? Well, it's a game about ordinary people like you and I with legendary powers. It is centered around the City of Mist, which is really in the game called The City. Now, you as the players or as the Master Ceremonies, which is essentially the storyteller, the game master, the dungeon master, whatever vernacular you're used to, whatever you want to call it. But to the residents, it's The City. So if you're familiar with the movie that came out, oh goodness, I'm going to say at least a decade ago, called The Dark City, that will give you kind of a feel for what you're looking at. Now, this game is a modern noir game where you are individuals with powers linked to legendary creatures, mythological beings, fairy tales. You could be a yoga instructor that is the embodiment of Hercules, fit with rage and power and masculinity, and you're a yoga instructor. Or you could be a local chef at a fast food joint, but in reality, you're the living embodiment of the punk god of the straight razor, Razor Eddie from Simon R. Green's The Nightside series. Or maybe an Anansi, the African spider trickster god. Or Excalibur, Red Riding Hood. Whatever it is that you could think of that's a myth, a fairy tale, something legendary, that is where your power is coming from. And what is happening with your characters is you are seeing things that the common citizens do not. You're going to be able to see beyond the mist, beyond the veil that's been draped across everybody's eyes. Now, every character has a couple things they have to take into account. So we're going to go through this whole process. I mean, not in total detail, but just enough to skim the surface for you. So, City of Mist is centered around your characters that are called Rifts. These are people that have awakened to what's going on in the world. Now, you have two different themes. You have your mythos and your logos. And we're going to be getting into that as we go. Now, the mythos, that's your legendary connection. That is where you're getting your magical powers from, your special abilities, your ancient knowledge. Your logos, that's your mundane life. That's your day-to-day alter ego, if you will. Now, this game builds upon these themes. And from these themes, this is where you're going to be getting your skills. You're going to be getting your powers, your items, your gear, and also where you'll get your weaknesses. Everything that I'm talking about right now are essentially what they call tags. And tags are used to help you overcome obstacles that the Master Ceremonies will be putting in front of you. Now, this game is a collaborative game. It is not the type of game you really want to go off on your own. This isn't about the individual, it's about the group, which pretty much all role-playing games, tabletop versions at least, are about the group experience. And the more the group is involved, the greater the outcome, not only to the story, but whatever it is you're attempting to accomplish. So, as I might have said in the beginning, this is a very narrative-driven, very storytelling-driven game that uses blending of the story and the rules overlapping each other. And we'll get into that as we go a little bit more. Now, there is a lot of cinematic combat. This isn't the type of game where you want to just sit and say, I'm just going to attack with my sword. I'm going to go hit him with my club on the head. I'm going to shoot him with my pistol. That's not very fun. That's not very cinematic. And that leads to a very crunchy game. Now, there's nothing wrong necessarily with crunchy games. This game is crunchy in the sense, and when compared to other narrative driven games. But when you compare it to, say, Dungeons and Dragons, or let's go with Pathfinder, where it's like you're plus 40 to your armor class and you get plus 22.769er Delta Charlie to your swing, and then you have a magic item that adds plus 32.6 to it. And next thing you know, you're having to do algebraic equations to determine what your percentage or your bonus is to your rolls. Now, not all games are like that, and I'm being a little bit exaggeration here, but this game is not simply I'm going to hit him on the head with my club. It's about describing your action, using your themes and your tags. And not only you, but your fellow riffs helping you or hindering you. That whatever it takes to drive the story of the game. And being kind of doing the storytelling and doing that narrative or cinematic combat, describing what you're doing, helps your characters grow. You get attention to your themes. And getting attention to your themes is like earning experience points. And once you get an X amount of attention to your themes, then that is what's going to trigger you be able to grow as a character. Now, before we get into the characters and all this will come together a little bit more, let me explain just a little bit more. When you are attempting to do something in this game, you are only using 2d6. This is the only dice you're ever going to use in this game, is 2d6. Now, the starter box, which I'll show you near the end, comes with 12-sided dice, two 12-sided dice. Now, statistically speaking, these are the same as rolling two 6-sided dice. Now, each of these 12-sided dice has 2 1s, 2 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, 2 6s. So, statistically speaking, they are 100% D6s. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. The math works out the same. But you can use any dice. Doesn't matter if you're getting 2d6 from your Monopoly game, or if you're person that really enjoys collecting dice, you probably have a 12-pound bag of dice for everybody to use. So when you are ready to perform an action, and let's go ahead and switch over so you can see, there we go. Let's take a look at one of the characters you can get. So you have Salamander. Now, before we get into really how you execute a move or an action or a skill, let's go ahead and back up a little bit and take a look at the character here. Now, Salamander is a free character that you can download. He's a pre-gen character, and he's really cool. I really like the character. Now, his whole shtick is he has the power of, or he's the embodiment, if you will, of a legendary salamander, a spirit of fire and water. Now, he has, as you can see here, he has 4 themes. Every character is going to have 4 themes. You can have any combination of power themes or mythos or your mundane or your logos themes. Now, the more that you have of one can lead you to becoming a sleeper or an avatar, but we're not going to get into that right now. So Salamander here has a power. His mythos is Nimbus of Primordial Plasma. And in it, he has several abilities like the burning whip of fire. I think that's what it says there. We also have his 3 logos abilities, which is up and coming crime fighter. He's a heartthrob because he's a handsome guy. Take a look at that art there. And he's also a city waterwork. And now each of these has across the top there, they have the attention, and they also have the fade if you are looking at the mythos, or the crack if you're looking at the logos. Now, what those do, let me go ahead and delve into those real quick, is that sometimes in the game, your logos might start to crack under the pressure of the world around them and the overwhelming power of your mythos. And once those cracks appear, once you get three cracks, that theme goes away, but now the logos theme is replaced with a mythos theme. And the same thing happens with your mythos theme. The more you spend time concentrating on your mundane life, focusing on those things, it kind of starts to fade away. That legendary presence starts to fade away into nothingness. So you need to be an active participant in this game, or the cracks and the fading is going to happen. Now, it is rare for it to happen. It's not you don't have to worry about your character disappearing or dying or anything the first game. You don't have to worry about that. But it does happen. Now, there are consequences to inaction and to action. Something just to pay attention to. Now, we scroll down. There's always a little bit of a blurb that you're going to put in there, kind of describe what your particular theme is centered around. Now, when you're looking at the themes in the book, they all have a number of power tags, and you can go through and choose which power tags that you want. And now these, like the logos ones, you have power tags like perhaps dodge and brawling, maybe arrogant or charming. Maybe you're a city official and you know all the roads around the city because of your extensive knowledge of being a city water worker. Now, these tags, when it comes time to take an action, say you want to investigate or you want to fight, you're going to be grabbing these tags. And you can grab as many tags as you want as long as they fit the situation. Now, being a city worker or being a city official and a city worker that knows all the different streets, being a city official might not necessarily help you as a brawler, but that's up to you to decide, and for the GM or the MC to kind of override or agree with. Now, the other part is that your fellow players, your fellow riffs, are able to contribute bonuses or negatives to that. And why would you want negatives? Well, those negatives can draw attention to your theme and their themes to really help boost them up. Yeah, it's going to interfere with your ability to accomplish your task, but on the plus side, you're gaining attention. So there is a positive and negative to being a hindrance to your fellow players. It's not necessarily to screw them over, but it is to help progress the story, progress your own individual stories and the group story or the crew, because you are a crew. And that's another place you can get your tag benefits from your crew abilities. It's like this is your team ability. And you can also get it from circumstantial. There's a lot that you can do to build up those tags. Now, in the beginning, you might be a little short, a little shy on it, but as you progress, more will happen, especially as you kind of get a nice feel for the in and outs of this game. So once you have all your tags put together, you're going to roll a dice and you're going to add or subtract from that dice roll whatever the actual total is. If it's a negative total, then you're going to subtract from your dice roll. If it's a positive total, you'll add to it, obviously. Now, whenever you roll that dice, rolls of 1 through 6 is a failure. How much of a failure is going to be dependent upon the master of ceremonies, your MC. Now, a 7, 8, or 9 is a success, but with some complications. It means you got it, but there's going to be maybe a little detriment that's tossed into there that might affect the overall encounter or a follow-on encounter. An example is you could be sprinting across the rooftops and you're going to try to infiltrate a warehouse from the roof. You were successful in your dice roll, but that roll of an 8 means that there is a slight complication, and maybe you didn't notice this, but a security guard saw you. And he's not anything important, but now he becomes important because he just saw you. He might not have been an important character, but now he is, because he is going to run to his security booth and call the police. So now you're more, you got time, your time is going to be rushed in trying to accomplish your task. So there are complications that can add. Now, 10 or 11 is a success, and very unlikely, unless it's really, really good for the story, you're likely not gonna have any complications, and you really shouldn't. A 10 or 11, that's an amazing, smashing success. You should be running into no problems. And a 12 is a dynamite success. And this is where you are going to be able to look at the results of whatever action that you took. And those actions will have, okay, if this condition was met, the player or the GM gets to choose one or more of these special abilities. So let's say that you were attempting to go all out. That's one of the actions. And you go all out and you got a 12. You're super successful. Not only are you able to push the enemy away, but you're able to use your abilities to tie them up entangle them with vines, because you're connected to the earth. Maybe your mythos is connected to the swamp thing. So there's a lot that you can accomplish with the more tags that you're able to roll. Now, the weakness tags, if you apply weaknesses, and you might not always be able to do it, or you might always be doing it. If you apply the weakness tags, either you or your fellow players, this is what gets you attention. And once you you knock off 3 attentions, that means you're going to get a new power tag. And all of your themes have additional power tags that you can add on. This makes you more powerful, more versatile in this game. So let's back up just a little bit. So looking at everything, this game is a very cinematic and narrative game. Now, there is dice rolling, and you don't always have to be acting out the parts, especially in the beginning. If you are not familiar with this style of gaming, if you're not very comfortable in the beginning of role playing, it's okay. I would even go as far to your first couple sessions might be a little slow. You might, as a MC, you might want to avoid implementing a lot of complications, maybe one complication per success, per player, per session. That way you're not bogging things down while people are still trying to get their feet get their feet wet, or get some solid ground underneath them as they're trying to figure out how to adapt this new style of storytelling from their perspective. They're not used to very likely not used to having to describe that they're going to be doing a wall run and leap over their opponent and lashing their fire tendril across the back of their opponent. Where before they'd be like, well, I'm just going to hit them with my fire tendril. Now there's a lot of more cinematic, a lot more narrative feel to it. Not only does that make the whole session cool, but it also helps grow your characters and drive the story forward. This is one of those cool elements that I really enjoy about playing City of Mist and running it. So one thing I'm going to recommend, actually there's a couple things I'm going to recommend with this game, is first, give it a good read through. There is on the website for cityofmist.co, they do have some free download rules. Go and take a look at it. They also have some other links on there for some podcasts. You can find some games on Roll-D20. Get a good feel for it before you dive in. You're going to stumble along the way with this game, but if you take a look at the rules, if you read through it, if you listen to some of the podcasts when you have some free time, you'll get a nice, good, solid feel, and then you'll be able to jump in a little bit more prepared, especially you as the MC, the master of ceremonies, especially for trying to guide this game. Now, if you like those type of games, the storytelling, narrative driven, cinematic combat scenes, not the super crunch games, but those type of games where you guys are actually interacting with each other, this is really good for you. If you've ever wanted to embody a legendary being, you wanted to, you just love the whole Arthur mythos, or maybe Merlin, or Perun. I believe that's the thunder god for a Russian thunder god. Baba Yaga, Papa Legba, the intermediary between the Loa, that's the voodoo gods, and humans. Maybe an Anasi, like I mentioned earlier, that African spider god. Maybe Quetzalcoatl, Jason, Freddy Krueger, maybe. Whatever that legendary being is that you have really, you've always enjoyed the stories, and you see the artwork, and it's like, oh my God, there's a movie about my favorite character coming out. This is a good game for you. And it doesn't require a lot of dice. It doesn't require total concentration on the game mechanics. It requires you just to interact with not only the MC, but the other players. And of course, if you enjoy modern games, especially modern noir games with magic dancing around, this is really, really ideal. I mentioned earlier crunch. There's nothing wrong with crunch games. I'm going to put that out there right now. I do like medium style crunch games. 5e is a little, Dungeons and Dragons 5e is a little bit on the heavier crunch side than I would prefer, but that's really, I would say that's more of a medium. In reality, that's medium in regards to crunch. On the low end would be, say, Savage Worlds. On the high end would be games like Starfinder or Pathfinder, which are very crunch heavy. And by crunch, what I mean is that there's a lot of mechanics involved when you have a 500-page rule book, and your character has to keep track of a plus 150,000 to roll to hit, and he gets to roll 6 different dice plus 12 to do their damage. These things are mechanically heavy because they require a lot more time and processing power into preparing and calculating all this. And that pulls away from the overall story. How many times those of you out there have participated in these heavy mechanic game where you've spent an hour on a combat when you don't need to? These games should not be driven by crunch. Save that for the tabletop skirmish games or tabletop war games. Now, like I said, there's nothing wrong with those style of games. However, if you want something a little bit lighter on that crunch and a little bit more focused on your characters and on the universe and the story and the cases that you're involved in, this will be a good game for you. But if you like the crunch, you're going to be a little left out. Now this, like I said, this is a little heavier on the crunch in the narrative style of games. Definitely more than if you've played or ever read about the Invisible Sun RPG from Monty Cook Games. I would also put this a little lighter than, say, the Cypher System or the Strange, but along that same lines. Also, if you like the classic sci-fi, cyberpunk, space opera, superpower, or fantasy, like those classic settings, then this might not be the best. This is a modern noir with legendary powers running around trying to solve the mysteries of the mist, solve the mysteries of whatever's happening in the city. Where did your powers come from? Where are you going? How do you unlock more? Why are you being chased by these villains? What is going on? So this game is definitely, I would say it's probably the top of my list of favorite games compared to Invisible Sun that I mentioned just a minute ago from Monty Cook Games, one of my favorite games. Cthulhu Tech, a little crunch heavy, but Cthulhu Tech from Catalyst, fantastic game. And of course, Ultramodern 5E from Deus Ex Machina. It's a modern sci-fi. It's the ultimate book if you want to run a non high fantasy setting like Dungeons and Dragons, but you love the 5e system. Ultra Modern 5 Redux, absolutely perfect for you. So let's go ahead and take a look a little bit more at their website here. Now, they do have a lot of tabs, and you can go and enjoy the story or read about the story, read about the game. They have download, quick start rules. You can choose characters that they've pre-generated characters and play City of Mist online. We're going to open up a second tab. I have not seen that. That's a new tab. The story, talking about the rifts, the city, the mist, because sometimes the mist pushes back, by the way. I left that out on purpose because I wanted to get to this point. The mist is ever changing, and it does not want your legendary mythos being to push through. Why? Why does it not want? Is it sentient? Is it just a natural defense that the city has? Where is the city located? What is going on? That's some of the story behind City of Mist. Then they've got, before I get into the books and sets that you can look at, they have a plethora of digital resources that you can download. Characters, districts that you can participate in, cases. Those are your adventures. The variety of PDF books that you can order. And a wide variety of free resources. So let's take a look at free resources really quick here. Now, the free resources are everything from the player moves, which I'm going to go ahead and pull up in another window. We have your character sheets, and it's going to go on here. Sorry about the website here. So your themes, the tags, your crew samples, a sample playthrough, which I think is probably one of the best things that you could take a look at. Let's take a look at the... how do we close this here? I'm going to be a total boomer here, and we're going to try to figure this out. Oh, goodness. We're just going to go ahead and skip past that. A sample playthrough is another thing that you can take a look at. It's really, I think, a great example of how to play the game, how to experience the storytelling aspect, and get a good, solid grip on how to add in your tags, how to describe your actions, get you a good feel, because this is a newer way of playing a tabletop role-playing game, and you might not be very comfortable with it. But once you do a read-through, or you watch or listen to a podcast, or watch a game being played on Roll20 or on Twitch, it will alleviate a lot of that, and you'll get a good sense of how this game plays. Now, here they go. You can go to speaking of Roll20, you can go and play City of Mist online. It's going to give you all the resources. You'll be able to get all the characters. You'll be able to play the game. I really think it is an excellent tool that you can use if you don't mind purchasing an account for Roll20. Just something to consider. Now let's get back into the books and sets, and this is where we're going to get into. I'm going to pull up the starter set. So they have a variety of things. They have a starter set right now where you can get $10 back if you purchase the starter set. I think the starter set is a good deal. And to be honest, just like every other starter set, and actually let's go ahead and just get into that starter right now. I think it is probably the best highlight we can talk about. So you're going to get a player booklet, which basically gives you a breakdown of your characters, how to play the game, and a little bit of a background about the whole setting. The Master Ceremonies booklet, as you'd imagine, this is about how to run the game. Now, these are not the full player's guide or the Master Ceremonies toolkit. These are just very bare bones basics for you to be able to run this starter box. You're also going to get 5 illustrated pre-gen characters that have how to play on top next to the artwork, as you can see in the center there with Talok. And also below that, you'll have all of their their corresponding themes that those characters have. You're going to get 20 tracking cards, which are ideal for keeping track of status effects and other special abilities or environmental effects that are going on for those encounters or for those scenes. You're going to get your crew card. As I said, this is your group special abilities that you can tap into. You're going to get those custom dice I talked about, those 2d12s that are actually six-siders, but double of all the numbers. And you're going to get 7 maps. Now, these 7 maps are really 2 big fold-out maps with 7 individual components. Now, you can go ahead and cut it up, laminate it, whatever works best for you, so you can move the tokens around. And speaking of tokens, you also get 41 character tokens. I think the character tokens are a really good, solid choice for anybody jumping into this game, because if you don't use miniatures, you don't have any modern day miniatures, they're great for everything, for every encounter that you could think of. Especially if you're just going to be using the starter set to see if you guys want to play it. All right. I think it's the best buy-in at $29.95. I think ideally most players, most gamers will want to purchase this. And I'm going to get a little bit more into another reason why you want to purchase this. Another thing that you can jump onto, they do have a bundle for the Masters of Ceremonies kit and the Player's Handbook. 2 very solid books. I really enjoyed. The artwork's great. The paper, the layout, everything about these books is ideal. And really, the Masters of Ceremony book, I think, is probably one of the better written GM or narrator, storyteller, dungeon master guides out there, because it has some really great tools for helping you develop stories. Whether you end up using this on a regular basis or you just go back to playing your favorite game, this one is a useful tool across the board for any RPG out there. Hands down. That's my personal opinion, and since I'm right, I think you need to go with it. Now, there is the super bundle that they have. It's the $220. It gets you the books, it gets you the GM screen, it gets you the starter box, a whole bunch of extra characters, and a couple of their other storybooks that we'll go into that you don't necessarily need, but I'm going to tell you right now, they are handy. Now, the books are $40. Now, they got Shadows for Shadows and Showdowns and Knights of Pain. Now, I've got these as digital books. I do not have them as physical copies. These are really, God, these are such good books. They're great for storytelling. They're great for whatever setting you want to be able to use them for if you don't want to play the City of Mist game. And the reason why I say that, and let me go into full detail here, a good friend of mine, Mike, we're just going to say Mike, has put together his own game called Lunaria using the Savage Worlds RPG system. Just like I'm working on my own version of my game called Channeler, the Altered Earth for the Savage Worlds. One of the best tips that he gave me is that, John, don't worry about the mechanics, because I've been stressing over mechanics until I decided to go with Savage Worlds, and just go with developing the story, the universe, the world, everything about it, because gamers are going to love the story and they're going to apply it to their favorite system. If they don't want to use Savage Worlds, but they love what you've done, they're going to apply it. Like right now, you could take my game and add it to Ultramodern 5 using the 5e system right now. And that really stuck with me. And that's why I like the concept behind City of Mist, because you could take this, if you don't want to deal with the game mechanics, but you love the setting, get the books, apply the setting to your favorite game system. I would still give it a try, but that's on me. Now, one of the great things I'm going to tell you, you're going to want to download for sure is, and I had these, and this is what we looked at them a little bit ago. I made a mistake of very quickly doing some spring cleaning, and I threw away my packet that came with the Kickstarter for, I had all the players move sheets in it. It had a stack of the themes, and had the stack of tag cards. Everything besides the 2 books and the GM screen was all wrapped up, and I accidentally threw them away. Thankfully, they have them here as free downloads. You're going to want them. They are really, really a lifesaver for running this game and playing it. So I'm hoping you guys enjoyed this. Please jump down below, hit a subscribe, hit the thumbs up, preferably. But if you got to hit the thumbs down, I get it. If you could, also leave a comment. Because the way that the YouTube analytics work, and for the videos to get spotlighted and get thrown out there and people starting to take notice, requires subscribers and people liking it and leaving a comment. And it really does help me out, because I'll be able to take into account what you've said and apply it to future videos. Whether it's just about this system, maybe my background, you don't like it, or maybe there's some weird sound effects, I don't know what's going on. Regardless, your feedback is highly important, not only for me to better improve this show, but also to help grow the channel. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, give it a thumbs up, and leave a comment. Most importantly, leave a comment below and subscribe. Let your friends know, and I'll catch you guys next time. I believe we're going to be doing an Invisible Sun RPG, even though that game has been out for a while. It's time to go ahead and hit it back up with another review. We've played it for over a year now, and I would like to go ahead and do a full solid review of it. Another one I want to go ahead and tackle is the new Cyberpunk game, the Cyberpunk Red. I've had a couple of people ask me about that, so I want to address that. So one of those 2 is going to be coming up in the next couple of weeks. If you like this video about the RPGs, there's another one down below for Ultramodern 5 from Deus Ex Machina. If you are a fan of the 5e system, jump down, watch the video. It's a little lengthy. It's one of my first videos, but give it a look over. They've got a new Kickstarter that's going to be happening soon for the Ultramodern 5 system, and I've got a preview of that Kickstarter, and I'm thinking I'm going to be getting involved in it just for the content alone. Whether I have time to play it or not, I don't know. Anyways, you all have yourself a wonderful day, and I will talk to you next time. See you guys later.